Hello, everyone. We are just giving few moments for more people to join in, but we'll get started with a quick intro about the hackathon, Mac, and then I would hand over it to Marie to take it further. So, Mirage Analytics Club is founded about 3 years back by UCI MSBA program at here, the Paul Murat School of Business. This year, we wanted to bring in something very related to what's happening surrounding to us, and Data 360 and Data for Good came in and helped us with the ideation of this hackathon. From the MAC team, myself, Darshana is here, Joy, Mexi, Ankit, Kathy, and Poonam. You can reach out throughout the event to any of us for any questions that you have. I would like a moment to thank our partners, Data for Good, Data 360, and Google Developer Group LA for supporting us and creating this hackathon possible for our students. Quick brief of the agenda, the introduction about Mac, and then followed by a hackathon guide by Marie. We have our opening speaker, Charismatic, and she would brief a little about data analytic field. We have Alan Fritzenberg as speaker, and then followed by the review of dataset, Google Cloud setup. And by 9:30, we hope to wrap up on the dataset and what is required in terms of the hackathon. I would hand over the forum to Marie to help us out, describe further about the event.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So welcome everyone. Thank you on behalf of Data for Good, Data 360, Google Developer Group, Cloud Los Angeles, and the rest of our sponsors. Today we're going to have a few different activities happen. So let me just share my screen. And we're going to have a few different speakers, Chris and Alan. And we're also going to talk about just really briefly where to find things. So we do have a hackathon space that you have a link to, but we'll also be posting links throughout the evening. So there's a hackathon event guide that has everything you need to know that's in it, that's in this event. And so you can find out about Data for Good, about Data 360, about Google Developer Group, our code of conduct, any important task that you need to do. So if you haven't signed your hackathon participation agreement, do that. If you haven't checked out the hackathon space yet, make sure you do that. I'm sure you all are starting to familiarize yourself with Discord, but if you need any guide on that, there's a link there. Any code of conduct issues or technical issues, please hit us up on Discord. Let us know. Either you can talk to us privately on a DM, any of us, or you can reach out to us on the technical support channel. The overall event today is called the COVID-19 Search Challenge. And so we're going to be using big data, AI, and machine learning to help those in need. And so today, we're going to start with the data set, and we're going to talk about kind of how to set it up for AI and machine learning and how you get those pieces in place. What are the foundations? The challenge question is, how do we create the ultimate health profile? So how do we know how to help? What are going to be the best ways to help someone based on the data that we have so far? So the data set. So we're going to have a data set that will touch on each of these subjects, and it will be up to you to kind of model how to help somebody who's looking for resources. How do you know what to put in the fields? And so there'll be 10 total data fields that should be used in the profile. for the person that needs help. We need to know why each field is important, how do you prioritize those fields, and what fields are a need to have versus a nice to have. You'll learn this from the data that you have. So you'll be mining that data, structuring it, modeling it, and visualizing it, and then telling us what you would do with that data as a prototype. So day one, you're going to have access to the data. This is your research phase. Day two, you're going to design a model and look at how the model informs your decisions. Day three, you're going to talk about your top ideas on how to actually fashion what you've learned and visualize what you learned into a prototype. And day four, you're going to provide us with a presentation and talk about kind of how you feel your prototype would impact others and how you would help people with a COVID-19 crisis, right? So these are not the people who have COVID-19, these are people being affected by it. So people who are looking for jobs, looking for healthcare solutions, looking for education solutions, looking for government resources. How do they find how do they begin to voice what they're looking for in a profile, right? So today we are going to go through we're going to have the speakers and review the data set. Tuesday through Thursday, you'll have video and other materials to support your quest. You'll have some today as well. Friday, we'll start to wrap things up with the prototype. And Saturday, we'll have a speaker, we'll have prizes and all that fun stuff and wind down. And then these are some of the prizes. We have $10,000 in Amazon Activate credits, $3,000 in Google Cloud credits, 2,000 in Bubble credits, 1,000 in Miro credits, and $450 in gift cards. And so each one of these will be allocated to the different tiers. Darshana, you want to remind everybody what the tiers are?
Yeah, absolutely. We would be looking at the best modeling overall, the most innovative idea overall, and visualization, the best visualization overall. So these are the three categories which are focused upon for the prizes.
Awesome. And so today we'll have the rest of the run of show. So we're good. You have some optional materials that we recommend you review, but you don't have to structure your project this way. But we do have a sprint structure that is in all of the hackathon space, which tells you how to structure your project Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It is the sprint structure recommended by Google Ventures. And it focuses on how to go from idea to prototype. And so you'll see that in the sprint link for today, which we'll post, you'll have the sprint for Monday. It has both a video and what it is that you can do on Monday. And of course, these are written out for teams where you're working throughout the day. So you can pick and choose what you think would be relevant to a more short-term ideation session. But look at how you can interact with us. You can look at how you can start ideas. You can look at the framework of how to facilitate working together in your groups. And so every day you'll have a guide from this Google Venture Sprint that is able to help you know what to focus on each day to get to your prototype. And then you can ask us questions, of course, in Discord along the way. And there's the video, the video is also embedded in the article. And today we're going to introduce Charismatic, who will be talking about data, working with data, the importance of data. And then we'll have Alan Furstenberg, who will also be presenting about how to, once you get past this foundation point, how can you take the result and use it, for example, in a particular software package like a Amazon Alexa or a Google Assistant. And then we'll wrap it up, review the data sets, and make sure everybody has the information to get set up on Google Cloud Platform. Okay, so without further ado, I'll want to introduce Charismatic and her speech today on data.
Thanks, Marie. Hello, everybody. And good evening. I know it's probably late for some of you. So just to get this out of the way, my name really is Charismatic. That's the name my parents gave me. I'm the CEO of the Matic. We help companies use data, workflow, and technology innovation as levers for business growth. I myself have a 20+ year career in tech. I started out as an analyst and an engineer before moving into my leadership and entrepreneurial roles. I'm also the founder of Champagne, a tool that uses the power of data and process to help content marketers build better social media campaigns. I am obsessed about using data for finding, creating, and refining processes, and I'm passionate about building systems that simplify, accelerate, and improve the way that people do things. And that's why I'm excited to be here tonight and grateful to be a witness to your creative and innovative work this week. Having the honor of kicking us off, I thought I'd share an approach and some examples of how my team and I see innovation ideas in just about every data set. Whether you've come to this event already with an idea in your mind or are looking to be inspired, you can use some of these techniques to help find opportunities and refine your ideas at hackathon pace. So I hope that's good for you. Let's get started. Before looking at any data set, it's helpful to begin with some basic parameters that can help guide your discovery and focus your view. Without this critical step, it can be really easy to get lost in a sea of data points and get super stuck in analysis paralysis. Ask me how I know. These parameters are flexible and don't have to be in your final solution, but they're a really good starting point. The most important of these will be your purpose. So the purpose of innovation, digital or otherwise, is to do something easier, faster, and better. Let's use this hackathon as our example. In light of our current collective health concerns, this hackathon is hosted over Zoom calls to prevent the spread of COVID. You may have already started using DocSend to gather information about the hackathon, and you'll definitely be using Discord to make team collaboration easy and speed up communication with your advisors and mentors. Together, these tools make the entire event a success, but the unique functionality built into each product helps serve the specific needs of this event. So when thinking about your own solution, remember that the more specific your objectives are, the more distinctive your solution can be. So while you consider that larger goal, have clarity and be specific about the purpose of your solution. As you start to plan, you'll also want to consider who you're building that solution for. For instance, when deciding to build a mobile application, how would you go about deciding which operating system to prioritize development for? If your intent was to serve the global population, for example, it might be important to know that roughly 72% of all mobile devices are on an Android platform. But if you're launching your product first in the US, iOS takes a majority of that market share at 61%. Other data points can help draw some parameters around what your solution needs to look like or where it needs to live. Understanding your user demographic can help you prioritize those elements of your build. Diving a little deeper, behavioral data can also offer some guidance. So recently at Thematic, we designed an online loan application for a bank intended to integrate with a mobile car buying app. That app identified that the majority of their users primarily use tablets, but in cases where documents were required, users preferred to use these functions with their laptops. And when forced to do it on their mobile devices, they actually would abandon the process altogether. Considering that documents were also required to complete a car loan, these insights influence our decision to also design and build for laptop use. So behavioral patterns aren't just indicators of usability. When you look at them very carefully, they may also offer insights into identifying unique needs that then could translate into special functions and features that will help your solution stand out. So let's get to the meat of it. Let's talk about finding opportunities. This is a method I like to use for some quick brainstorming, and I hope these perspectives will help you find different kinds of opportunities as you start to look at your data set. Once you've identified your purpose, take note of the assumptions and expectations that you have about the data set you're about to review. These parameters will be the baseline that you can use to compare your findings against. Remember, it's not set in stone. As you evaluate that data set, you can categorize your observations into different groups. I like to use patterns, exceptions, and gaps. For each observation, rank it according to your assumptions and expectations. So whether they are consistent, conflicting, or a surprise to your expectations and assumptions. So I use this taxonomy to help me find areas of focus to dive deeper and ask more targeted questions relevant to each of my observations. Let's look at each combination as an example. So let's go for the easy win, the patterns that are consistent with your assumptions and expectations. Hooray! This is an indicator that what you're doing is producing the results that you want. Yay! Celebrate these observations. But don't get complacent. Yes.
Are you supposed to be sharing slides?
No, I didn't have any slides to share.
Okay, okay.
So
we were just checking.
Oh,
we were
sorry.
Just checking.
Am I moving too fast? Should I speak slower?
No. Go for it. We just thought for some reason we were supposed to be looking at slides. That's okay. No worries.
Oh, well, thank you for asking. All right, cool. Well, so you want to celebrate those observations, but you don't want to be complacent. As we have all experienced this past year, the world moves really quickly and many factors could impact the alignment and the sustainability of these patterns. So when you focus on this area, you may want to ask yourself if these patterns are in line. I'm so sorry. Give me just 1 second. I've lost my track.
We can fix it in post.
Perfect. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to find my cue. Give me just 1 second. Thank you for your patience, everybody. I love the new challenges that doing Zoom speaking events offer. And this is one for my own notes. Okay. I know what to do. And apologies, Marie. You're just gonna have to give me a few seconds here to resort my tech.
No worries. All right. While we're waiting for Karis to resort her technology out, do we have any questions about any of the links that we posted so far? Okay, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
Oh.
Okay, so we were talking about the Holy Grail. These observations that you have that align with your expectations and your assumptions. So you don't want to get complacent because as we've experienced in this past year, the world moves really quickly and there are lots of factors that could impact alignment and the sustainability of those patterns. So if you're looking to find innovations in this area, what you want to ask yourself is if these patterns are first in line with your intended purpose today, And if so, what opportunities exist to reinforce, boost, or accelerate those patterns? What known conditions could cause a disruption to those patterns, and what can you do to mitigate that risk? So when looking to maintain patterns consistent with your assumptions and expectations, the challenge will be to find opportunities that can elevate and extend those patterns. Now, when you find patterns that are in conflict, this may be an indicator to investigate the rationale for the assumptions and expectations you'd previously noted. You might want to ask questions like, what might have influenced your assumptions, and are your current systems working in conflict with this pattern because of those expectations? What's the impact to your solution when you need to align your expectations with these patterns? So here's an example. When the Matic created a cost modeling tool for a university program, we demonstrated projections that compared the cost of implementing diversity programs against the cost not to. While study participants always assumed that the cost of implementation would be higher because cost not to is nothing, the data actually showed that even when with the smallest implementations could help them avoid greater costs in staff attrition. So these calculations prompted the rationale that they needed to implement diversity programs in many universities across the United States. So patterns that are not in line with your expectations can point you to missed areas of focus and potential areas of risk. These opportunities may be hidden in the work that's needed to realign your expectations with these patterns. Sometimes you'll notice a pattern emerge when you weren't expecting one. Here's my favorite example. When content creators create blogs, podcasts, or videos, each of those pieces of content have an average lifetime value of about 700 days. This means that given similar conditions, we can continue to observe expected patterns of view and download behavior on content that was released almost 2 years ago. So why do most marketers only promote their content for 30 to 45 days? That 700-day metric was a complete surprise to me when I learned about it. But it does explain how Baby Shark can be released in 2016, become viral in 2017, and not start trending on TikTok until 2018. If these patterns are a surprise to everyone else, it may be an indicator of an underserved process. The opportunity will be in how you choose to serve that workflow. For every pattern in a data set, you will also likely find deviations. These anomalies, outliers, and exceptions offer insights and opportunities that can also inspire new ideas. Some exceptions you'll already have been expecting. In these instances, you may want to take a closer look at what, if any, patterns emerge out of the unifying characteristics of those deviations. What opportunities exist to serve those outliers so that they fall more within new patterns that you can expect? Is it an opportunity to create something new? If you were already expecting them, it may already be on your roadmap. These exceptions serve as validation for those enhancements that are already underway, and they can even offer prioritization if there are any that are in conflict. Speaking of conflict, in instances where those exceptions are in conflict with your assumptions, you can apply a similar approach as you did with the patterns in conflict. Ask questions like, are there flaws or gaps in your assumptions? Do these exceptions exist because of systems wrapped around those assumptions? So if you haven't heard of it yet, you may hear of Clubhouse soon. It's a platform designed to connect individuals with common interests via live audio interaction. As a visually driven society, early assumptions about this platform may have suggested a viability issue. But as outlying behaviors of joining Zoom calls without video emerged, the visionaries behind Clubhouse were able to anticipate and serve those who wanted to continue connecting without the expectation of a visual component. Early indicators of exceptions that conflict with your assumptions could indicate an emerging pattern and open the door to new opportunities for serving new needs. Some exceptions can point to flaws in your assumptions and expectations, and having them stated at the onset can be useful in identifying when data points are unexpected and disruptive. So when they appear, this may prompt you to need to understand what led you to making those assumptions. Is it information from a correlating data set? So a few years ago, the Matic was asked to help design a real-time dashboard that identified potential theft in manufacturing facilities across the world. When the manufacturer was reviewing their product returns, they discovered a series of exceptions in unidentified item numbers, or SKUs. In taking a closer look at these exceptions, they realized that these were returns of products made with parts that were in fact from their factory, labeled and sold under their brand, but tagged with different item numbers. This discovery highlighted that what they thought were normal defects in the manufacturing process might have actually been discrepancies that were a result of theft. So this prompted an innovation to keep a closer eye on their manufacturing process. So understanding surprise exceptions can help you figure out what led to the miss, and in that discovery, find opportunities to improve your tools for monitoring, measuring, and evaluating your metrics. Now that we've talked about what's in the data, let's break down what isn't. Among the patterns that you're observing, there may be others that don't exist. If you've seen one or two BuzzFeed articles on things like products that'll make you laugh or products that seem to have no purpose, I often wonder if those products only seem useless to me because I haven't learned enough about the population that they serve. How about a hypothetical? Denture products designed for children. I just came up with this today, so apologies if this sounds weird. Is this a necessary product? Won't this product become obsolete the minute babies start growing their teeth? What if I introduced another data point, like children with oligodontia? That is, the absence of 6 or more teeth likely due to genetic discrepancies. By introducing this new data point, I can focus and ask more pointed questions for a potential solution specific for that purpose, like, what would enhance a child's experience in using such a product? How do I make that product extensible so that it grows with the child? When there are gaps consistent with your assumptions and expectations, it may suggest that the data isn't specific enough for a viable solution to emerge. I encourage you to dive deeper and find opportunities by introducing correlating data points to refine your ideas. When gaps exist where I expect to see patterns, my immediate reaction is to question whether or not we've gathered enough data. Our initial assumptions and expectations can't possibly be incorrect, right? Just kidding. Gaps that are in conflict could point to an error in understanding the population you're serving, their objectives, and their constraints. Recently, the Matic helped to reinvent a back office application that had been in the marketplace for several decades. Our purpose was to increase usability and user engagement by enhancing the workflows, introducing new functionality, and giving it an updated look and feel. Early interviews suggested that they'd see an increase in engagement, and when it was launched in tandem with a secondary product line intended for a different business function. The resulting gap in engagement metrics was in direct conflict with our client's expectations, because our client had not anticipated that there'd be such an overlap in the user base that engagement would continue to lag until they were fully integrated with this new product. This prompted some quick innovations around onboarding the secondary product so that we could support redirecting the user's attention back to their brand new core product. When you don't see what you're expecting, you may find opportunities to help clear obstacles and impediments to realizing your purpose. The most elusive of them all, in my opinion, are the surprise gaps, because you almost have to discover them by looking for new perspectives on old information. At the beginning of my career, I was working customer service at a popular fashion company. I was systems-minded, but I didn't have the knowledge and experience I have now. My objective was to reduce customer complaints, and as I gathered information, I started learning more about the business I was in. It led me to discover that there were large gaps in communication between sales, our production lines, and our customer service processes. I was able to identify gaps in the data story that specifically pointed to missed integrations from one business area to another. Although each business area had been efficient in their work, it hadn't occurred to them that these integrations were critical to bridging the gaps, especially because they felt like they were working so well together. So I proposed an integrated production system. We used our insights to guide the solution. And in the same year, we increased productivity 10 times over and eliminated every customer service complaint we had addressed. I tell this story because these gaps were a big surprise to the company's leadership. My inexperience at the time led me to asking questions in new ways and brought new energy to an old problem. So surprise gaps can sometimes be the most rewarding opportunities, and I encourage you to stay open to new perspectives because they may lead you to surprise opportunities. So, quick summary of what we've learned. Data can be a point of definition, focus, and refinement. Consider your larger goal and then identify a specific purpose that can help drive the distinction of the solution you're building. Use demographics where possible to clarify who you're building that solution for, and behavioral insights to identify their unique needs. Create a structured approach to evaluating your data to help you find different types of opportunities to innovate. Take note of your assumptions and expectations based on this structure, and then compare them against your observations. For example, group your observations into patterns, exceptions, and gaps, and rank them according to their alignment with your assumptions and expectations, consistent with, conflicting with, and surprise. Ask questions based on your observations and rankings, and then find opportunities to serve by transforming gaps, exceptions, conflicts, and surprises into the patterns that are consistent with your assumptions and expectations. If you find that one of these techniques was particularly helpful to you, we'd love to hear more about it and how you were able to use them. So find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter to let us know. I would love to extend a special thanks to the sponsors, the advisors, mentors, speakers, and judges for committing their energy and resources to encouraging these initiatives and for inviting us, Thematic, to be part of this community. I want to wish good luck to all the team participants. I'm excited to see what solutions your innovative minds will create this week. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Well, thanks, Karis. I was always like, yeah, your name is really charismatic. That's so cute.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Okay, so next we have Alan Furstenberg. Am I saying your last name right, Alan?
You said it right on.
Nice. And we're going to have him speak now on how to apply data to different voice technologies and assistant technologies like Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant.
So I do have a screen to share. So if you give me just a moment.
Okay.
Let's get some things sharing. So hopefully you see that. Let me know if you don't.
Yes,
and I need a little bit of an assistant here. So hang on just a moment. Hey, Google, talk to this audience.
Okay, getting the test version of this audience. Greetings.
Advance.
Hi everyone, great to be here in Los Angeles. Alan, this doesn't look like LA.
No, unfortunately, we need to do this remotely this time, and I'm in New York, but it is great to be talking with all of you. I hope you can hear the assistant. If you're having trouble hearing it, someone please flag me down and let me know. And what we're going to be talking about today is how you can let your users, the people who are going to be accessing your data, engage with your data, the information that you want to provide through voice, how they can talk to you and your information, and how you can talk back to them. Hey, Google, advance.
This is Alan, and I'm Alan's assistant.
So my name's Alan Furstenberg. I'm a software developer and consultant. I'm located in New York. I work for a small consulting company, and a lot of what we do are help companies understand how to use new technologies as part of what they're already doing. So, this 25 years ago, we were helping companies understand what this web thing was all about. And 10 years ago, we were helping companies understand what this mobile thing was all about. And now a lot of what we're doing are helping companies understand how can tools like voice and big data and artificial intelligence and virtual reality help them do their job better and help them serve their clients better. I'm also what Google refers to as a Google developer expert in a variety of things for the assistant, for workspace, IoT, wearables, and identity. And what this means is that I don't work for Google, but I work closely with them. So I help them understand what developers need to use Google technologies better. And I help developers, people who are using Google's programming and technology products, understand how to do it better. So I kind of act as a bridge between these two worlds. As part of that, one of the things I do is I host a podcast and a YouTube series called Two Voice Devs. And I partner with an Alexa specialist. And we talk about how do these two platforms, how are they similar? How are they different? How can people use them? So some ways that you can find me. You can find me at spiders.com, the company that I work for. I host information at prisoner.com, and these slides will be posted there probably sometime tomorrow. And you can definitely find me on Twitter at @afurstenberg. I am always happy to answer questions. Hey, Google, advance.
Enough about you. Let's talk about me. Explain to them why we're talking about, well, talking.
So we're talking about this because voice is cool. It's a really cool technology in a lot of ways, and it's fun to work with and fun to play with. But it's more than that. Voice is a completely different way that we have of being able to communicate with our users. And in some ways, our users can use it in different ways. They can use it more casually. They can walk into a room and ask a question. They can kind of, ask questions when they think about it or try to do things on the spot as they need that information, instead of having to pull out a phone and dig through menus and so forth, or go to a desktop and pull out the keyboard and find a program and run it and so forth. Now, one approach to this are to use tools such as Amazon's Alexa or Google Assistant. And Alexa is available on a number of hardware devices. Similarly, the Assistant's available on a number of hardware devices, and both of them are increasingly available on things like mobile devices. And I think someone may have sent me a message. If you are sending me a message, I will get to messages later. If you're looking for those links again, I've got the links at the end of this presentation as well, and we'll be able to take more questions then as well. Hey, Google, advance.
To be clear, what do we mean by voice assistants?
So voice assistants, I like to think of as a combination of software and hardware that help you carry on user-directed conversations with other data and services. And there are three important bits to that in my mind. The first is it's software and hardware. So while normally we associate these assistants with things like smart speakers, there's more to it than just what these smart speakers are doing. The speakers themselves are very, very relatively simple technology that have a host of software backing them up, ranging from helping detect who is speaking and what they're saying, and then a lot of advanced AI to process that and hand it off to other tools. And we'll be discussing some of those quickly. We're carrying on user-directed conversations, which is kind of a reversal from how most applications work in the past. So previously, we would have screens of information that we as developers are kind of narrowly channeling people through. This flips things around. Users can do whatever they want at any point. They're in control. They're driving the conversation. And in some ways, it is a literal conversation. So while we as developers can try to focus things sometimes, can try to narrow and get them to answer particular questions, they may take that conversation in whole different ways that we needed to have expected. And finally, what are they having the conversations with? Well, they're having it with, in some ways, data and services. So while we think of these, in the past, we thought of programs to access data, this increasingly makes it so that they're accessing that data and the information more directly, more upfront. And one of the things that we need to do as we are developing for this is we need to anticipate what kind of data they're going to be looking for, what questions they will be asking, and how they're going to ask those questions, and how we need to answer them. Hey, Google, advance.
Where can you find me?
So voice assistants can be found in lots of places. They are now in millions and millions of devices that are out there. So all of us think of things like smart speakers, the Amazon Echo, the Amazon Echo Dot, the Google Home, the Nest Home. These are the things we commonly associate with it, but they're really everywhere. We're seeing them on our phones. We're seeing them more and more on our TVs, other displays. We're seeing them in cars and part of cars. We're seeing wearables that contain them. The possibilities are endless and they are growing. But more and more we're seeing that assistants, voice assistants, are becoming ubiquitous. They're everywhere. They're in devices that we may not have thought of, in refrigerators, for example. But most importantly, they are living in our world. Previously, to use a computer, to ask questions, to do these sorts of things, we needed to live in the computer's world. We needed to go to a keyboard that had a screen attached to it. We needed to pull a phone out of our pocket and physically engage in it, to get into the screen. We no longer have to do that. The technology is there and is waiting for us to do something, and it's literally at our command that it will do so. Hey, Google, advance.
How can these fine folks let people ask questions and provide results back to them?
So broadly speaking, and I'm going to be talking about this fairly broadly because we don't have a lot of time and you need to be focusing on your data more than the details of how you're going to be doing this. But broadly speaking, we can break it down into a few parts. The first is when the user says something. The assistant technology, for example, Alexa or Google Assistant, takes that and breaks it down, turns it from the text who's saying it, and turns it from what they've said, the audio, into text, so a speech to text system. It then sends that to something that takes that text and tries to get a little more understanding out of it. What are they trying to do? What is their intent? And what are the values that are parts of that? This data is then sent to us, what we call a webhook or a fulfillment. But basically, this is our code that is running somewhere in the cloud where we get the intent, the parameters, we process it, come up with some answer, and send that answer back. And that eventually goes back to the assistant that takes our data, our a speech, a script almost, and turns that into audio to play to the user. Hey, Google, advance.
What is the first part? Automatic speech recognition?
So this first step in turning speech into text is what's known as automatic speech recognition, or ASR. And as I said, it takes the user and turns it into text. It has no understanding of it though. So general ASR systems are pretty much designed to understand a broad set of what users can talk about and turn that into text. That's pretty much all it does. And yet that's an incredibly powerful thing. One of the big issues of this though is we have almost no control about it. So we can't hint about what we're expecting from users. We can't hint at what kinds of information we think they're going to say. All we know is that either Amazon or Google has taken what the user said, turned it into text, and handed off to the next part. Hey, Google, advance.
It doesn't just give you developers what the user said.
No, in fact, doing that would actually be really, really tough because the users can express what they're trying to do in a whole variety of different things. So let's, for example, give an illustration. If a user is trying to schedule a meeting, they may say something like, plan a meeting for tomorrow at 9 a.m. Or they may just say, plan a meeting. Or I need to schedule a meeting for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Or I need to put a meeting in the calendar for sometime tomorrow. Or tons and tons of other slight little variants on these sorts of things. We group all of these concepts together, all of these things that are trying to express roughly the same thing, into what we refer to as an intent, because they represent what the user is intending to express. Within that intent, there are also little variants. So for example, in scheduling a meeting, we need to specify a time and a date. And these we will sometimes refer to as either slots or parameters, and we've got some other names for it. We can roughly think of this in a lot of ways as a function almost, and this is something developers are pretty familiar with. So a function, broadly speaking, is an intent. It is what we are intending to do as we call that function, and we may pass some parameters to that function. The intent is made up of a bunch of these sample phrases. And one of the things good natural language understanding systems do is take these phrases and find some other variants, so that if it gets handed text that is similar but not quite like one of the phrases that we determined, it figures it out anyway. An important bit to understand, though, is this script, these sample phrases, are things that we determine. So as we are developing the system, we need to anticipate what the user will say and how they say it. And good NLU systems help us identify things that users said that we didn't anticipate and figure out how to map them so that users in the future can do that better. Hey, Google, advance.
Oh, I get it. Once it has determined the intent and parameters, what does it do with them?
So once it has determined an intent, it takes the intent information that includes the parameters and usually some other additional information about the conversation that we've had so far, and it hands it off to what we refer to as a webhook, which is really just a fancy name for a program that we have running somewhere on the web that will take this JSON bundle that we're handed, do something with it, and return a different JSON bundle that includes our response, that includes what we want to say in response to the user. And that part in the middle about how do we take what the system has sent us and what we do for a response is up to us. That's really where the magic of programming kind of comes in. So from there, we can use it to do calculations. We can use it to do lookups in a database. We can make calls to other web services. We can do pretty much whatever we want to do. We've got limitations, usually time limitations, because we, after all, want this to sound like a conversation. We don't want the user to say something and a couple of minutes later we give them the response. We need to give them some pretty quick response. But for the most part, this is where the magic happens, and this is where all the work happens. And this is the sort of thing that you can think about as you're working on your data. What are the questions that people are going to ask about this data that I have? And how can I answer them? How does the data I have, how can I organize it? How can I collate it? How can I make sure that I can answer their question? And then how do I do so? What is that? What shape does that answer take so that I can send it back? Hey, Google, advance.
I'm sure you've talked too much, but I hope everyone has learned that they can use voice agents to deliver their information. Before we get to some questions, where can they learn more?
Now I realize I've just gone through things in an utter blur, and everyone's kind of a little dazed about anything that I just said and have no idea how to actually do any of it. And you're right, I didn't explain how to do any of it. But hopefully, here's the other screen that provides a couple of those pointers. So you can look at, again, the first two URLs are my sites. They're best ways that you can get a hold of me. Twitter is actually probably the best place if you've got any direct questions. And I will also be on Discord for the rest of the week. If anyone wants to find out a little bit more or wants to just know how they can get a hold of me after the hackathon, so that once you have proven your concept, how do you take it to the next level with voice? Here are my YouTube channels and podcasts. One is Two Voice Devs, where I team up with an Alexa developer and we answer your questions. The other one is Questions and Alan, where again, I answer your questions about how to do development. And finally, these bottom two links are links to the official Google and Alexa documentation about how to develop for the assistant or how to use the Alexa Skills Kit. And there where you're going to find the nitty-gritty details about how do you actually write the code? How do you interact? How do you write these intents? How do you design the conversations that are behind them? That's where you're going to be finding the details. And again, when you have questions about those, I'm happy to answer. Posting on Stack Overflow is also a fantastic way to get answers from a wide community of voice enthusiasts who want to help you bring voice to your data. So with that, I know we have at least a little bit of time. I am happy to answer some questions. You can either voice them directly, or I will try to figure out how I can reopen chat and take a look at those, or Marie can ask them for you.
So yeah, you can post in chat, or you can unmute yourself and ask Alan any questions you might have.
Anyway, so I'm glad people sounded like they reacted well to the opening theme music. I appreciate that. Not everyone appreciates that. And I should say, one of the reasons why I have this Star Trek theme is the voice of the Enterprise was a big influence on me as I got into voice and as I was growing up. And it was always fantastic to me how you could just turn to the computer and ask a question, and it would go through the data that it had to come up with an answer. But that answer, that's our job. You know, so as you're looking at the data and as you're collating it, again, think about if someone just turned to the computer and said, where can I find this? Where can I go to answer this? Do you have the data to answer that question? And if not, what questions can you answer?
Yeah, absolutely. I know one of my favorites was also the Jetsons.
Jetsons are always fun, yes.
The Jetsons also deeply inspired me along with Star Trek and Star Wars. All right, any questions?
Hi, Alan. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to quickly ask you, what do you see the trend moving forward with the voice? What trends you see the most coming in next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, so I alluded to this a little bit earlier when I talked about what devices it was on. I think we're going to see voice as an interface being a primary driver for how we're designing our systems. So making it more and more that people, wherever they are and whatever they're doing, can interact with the data that we currently rely on screens about, more and more relying on that in voice. And there are a lot of reasons why I think this is true. But I think the biggest reason is that we've gotten so used to burying ourselves behind screens that we find that very isolating. Whereas voice leaves you more present in the world. So for example, I can walk into my kitchen and be engaging in, the things that are around me, and yet still be able to ask the computer about the recipe, about the things that are going on in my day, about my schedule, about messages that I might receive. While I'm driving or while I'm in the car, while I need to pay attention to other things, I can also get these little snippets of information by audio that are important to me at that moment. And where necessary, I can reply to them, because audio is a two-way street. I both listen and can respond. So I think more and more over the next 5 years, we're going to move beyond this notion that audio is just confined to speakers into this notion that audio will be more ubiquitous, that it will move from just controlling lights and playing music to being a way to interact that kind of goes beyond all of that. And I think one of the things that we will see is that the other modes will always be there. We're always going to have screens. We're always going to have keyboards. We're always going to have these other, what we refer to as modalities, but they will all work together with voice, so that I will use voice where it is appropriate. I will listen to responses where it's appropriate, but I will also have a screen where it is appropriate, and I will have a keyboard where it's appropriate. And my mobile device will have a use where it is appropriate. And we'll have this nice seamless transition from one to the other, so that I can carry on a conversation by voice, but then switch to a keyboard where I need privacy, or switch to a display where I need to see a graphical result of something, and then switch back to voice or audio. So I think more and more we're thinking about ways that we can do that, and the best ways to do that. That was a fantastic question.
Do you have time? I want to ask another question.
I have plenty of time. I think I was billed for at least another 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm happy to answer more questions. Sure.
So basically, I currently own Alexa, the Google, and a Siri, all the voice interface I can have. The problem I find within is, if you want to make super useful and adapt to your life, you have to like manually go into the interface by yourself, and kind of like a simple dummy code, but you need to do all the process, give the access from one app to another app, whatever. You have a lot of process to do it. For us, like young adults, like we are able to do it. Even for next generation, growing up with environment which is not a problem for them. But for the senior, for elderly people, it seems like not really user friendly for them. It's like the world is teaching them out. They cannot make this voice adapting to their life, since it's involve a lot of like kind of coding. Not coding, is like arranging stuff make to suit for them their life, and all the interface has a different name for them, like a Siri, like Google and Alexa, and they cannot make one voice. Like I got a puppy, I just want to name a puppy, and I cannot make them for all my like voice actor and respond to my voice. Is the problem for like the current situation as I see it. What do you think for this situation?
It's an incredibly difficult and complicated problem right now. But one of the things we are seeing, and this is, I unfortunately don't have the numbers at hand, but we are seeing something like 30% of voice assistant usage, and that's primarily with Alexa and Google Home and the Google Assistant. Roughly 30% are by people who are 65 and older. It is by far the largest, the most rapidly adopted technology by older people than anything in the past. And we're seeing that for a lot of reasons. And one is that there is a hurdle to setting it up. There is no doubt about that. And the companies that are responsible behind it are working on ways to make that setup easier. But once it is set up, and usually that means once it is set up by a family member, it is much easier to use, because people feel more comfortable talking. And a lot of the things that they want to do are things that they are comfortable talking about. Things like turning on music, things like turning on and off lights, things that pose some level of, I won't say a burden, but some level of difficulty in using phones or other devices to do so, become much easier for most people when they can just ask it to happen. That said, we have a long way to go to making things more senior friendly. As you say, right now, some things involve remembering complicated ways to start things. And while there are tools that are available to simplify that, they're not all easy to use yet. Some of the things that we want to do, like medication reminders, medication monitoring, encouraging people, and just general conversations, they're a little more difficult to do in general. So while we have a ways to go, I think we're already seeing some amazing work being done for seniors. I know I know of at least 2 developers who focus all their voice development work on developing for seniors, and they are booming businesses right now. So this is definitely something that population understands, accepts, and works with very well. There is a lot lower fear of voice technology among seniors than we saw of other technologies, of phones, for example. So I'm very encouraged by where we are going with voice for that population. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Good. Because again, it was a fantastic question because there are a lot of people really thinking about how to make voice better for seniors and what sorts of things seniors want to say to these devices. So it was another fantastic question and insightful about ways that we can create voice technologies that tailor to different audiences. Any other questions? I don't see anything in chat. Yes, Marie.
I don't see anything in chat. Just a quick question. If someone wanted to like get started with the basics of like going from point A to point B, what do you think would be the best place to start? Would it be like a Udemy or a Coursera or one of those, or what do you think is best?
A great place to start are the 2 links that I've provided here. Both Google and Amazon provide good starter material for how to develop for their platforms. Google, I know, has what they refer to as code labs. And these code labs take you step by step through the basics of creating an action. Similarly, Amazon has some very step-by-step documentation about developing a skill. And these are free resources. Once you start even getting past some of the very basic stuff, one of the things you'll need to do is field your fulfillment, the code that you write that lives in the cloud. Well, you need to put it someplace. And that's in the cloud. And that's where you may start incurring costs. But even there are basic levels on both Google Cloud Platform and AWS that let you run your code. And when you're developing, you can run it locally. So it's not a problem. There isn't much expense, but they do like having a billing address or a billing card because they're annoying like that. But you're also getting cloud credits if you do a good job here. So, good place to use the credits maybe.
And you get started out, you get 300 credits started out, and then you also get 3 free month trials for most of the software.
Right.
So.
And honestly, when you're starting out for most of these technologies, you're not even going to get past the free tier. Both Alexa and Google, the voice assistant part itself is free because they want people to develop for the platforms. So the best place to get started is right there. Are there other courses that are good? There are. There's a wealth of stuff that is out there. I would encourage you to make sure you're focusing on one of these two platforms. However, they're the two predominant platforms right now. So anything that's talking about other platforms, not as helpful. The other thing I would suggest is the technology behind it, the programming for it that is available to you, makes things pretty easy. Designing a good conversation, however, is a lot harder. So one of the things I find a lot of developers really quickly figure out how to write the code, but writing the good user interface, that's harder. It's kind of like, you know, when you start building a web app or building something for Android, you can write the code pretty quickly, but it's going to look terrible. But kind of imagining having a conversation with something that sounds terrible, it's going to feel weird. So try to also learn how to do some design work, or turn to people who know how to do design work. And both Google and Amazon, again, have pages specifically talking about how to design a good conversation, what a good conversation sounds like, giving you some rules of thumb about, you know, things to make sure you're doing so it doesn't sound too bad. And as you're experimenting with it, you'll pretty quickly catch on when it sounds more robotic than fluid.
Yep. And those are good rules of thumb for content in general too.
Yes.
For writing content as well as voice content.
One of the things we find about writing voice content in general is it's a lot like writing a script. So if you think about what movies sound like, what, you know, plays sound like, what TV shows sound like, that's the sort of thing you're striving for when you're writing.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Any other questions or thoughts?
No, I don't see too many others. When you do have questions, I will be on Discord for the rest of the week in case you do have any others, or find me on Twitter. I'm really, really very happy to answer any sorts of questions from those that we've talked about tonight, to more technical ones, to more theoretical ones, because I love voice and I love talking about voice. So, you know, good luck to everyone on your projects this week. And thank you again to Marie and the rest of the organizers for inviting me to speak.
Perfect. Thanks, Alan. We really appreciate it. All right. So today for the rest of the day, we're going to get into the data and Google Cloud. So we do have some links that I will post following my little speech here. And we will just talk a little bit about how to use the week productively, because there are very productive ways you can handle the week and there are very unproductive ways you can handle the week. So we want to make sure you stay as productive as possible. So let's get into the sort of the overall Google Cloud free tier. So we want to make sure that you sign up for your free trial with Google Cloud. You'll be able to, when you go to Google Cloud /free, you just click the button for get started for free. And it will take you through the process of getting started for free. It is free with no cost. They do ask you for a billing address. They do ask you to agree for terms of service, but they don't auto charge you after the free trial ends, and you get $300 worth of credits. So you can just click those buttons and then you'll get started, and it'll take you through all the different pieces of going ahead and get started. You hit start my free trial and it will set up billing. It will tell you have your $300 in free credits, and then it has all the basics of how to get started. It is as simple as I just did it right now. It's just those few clicks and making sure you have everything. Then it will show you everything under the sun. But we will give you the link to go to directly to cloud data prep, which is the first thing you're going to do. So you have two tools. You can either use Google Sheets or you can use cloud data prep. If you want to know more about what's available in the free tier, there is actually a link to the free tier that tells you exactly what you get in the free tier, and how much credits you get, all those fun things, what's happening, what the terms of service are, how to manage your billing, all those fun things. At the end of the hackathon, we will walk you through winding it down. If you don't want to if you don't want to continue using the free tier, if you want to take your solution and I'll like build it out and have fun with it, you can do that with this free tier. And it tells you all the limits. So just make sure if you do want to keep your Google Cloud platform account open, you can pay attention to the limits that are here. But it does walk you through what the limits are. It tells you when you're about to go over them. Let's see, there's some in the chat. So data. This is the first step we're going to do. So for every technology in the world, it all begins with data. It all begins with how things are going to be structured. And so with this particular challenge, we're going to start with data. We're going to give you a bonus link to the data lifecycle that is in Google Cloud that tells you all about all the different pieces of Google Cloud you can use to ingest data and store data and process and analyze data and explore and visualize data. Today, and throughout this hackathon, we're just going to explore and visualize data. We're not going to do all the other pieces. Thanks to Darshana, we gave you some mercy. We're not going to make you data mine and store and process data. So we're just going to give you, actually, we're going to do a little processing, but very little processing, and mostly explore and visualization to inform building a prototype. So we're going to actually use in this stack, we're going to use what's called data prep right here, right? So that's in the stack here that is under process and analyze. And then we're going to use Data Studio and Google Sheets. So those are the three options you'll have for tools. And that's what we'll be working on. We also highly recommend that you use Jamboard to collaborate with your team. And that's just under jamboard.google.com. We also have a shortcut link that we'll send you, which will basically you can do very simple things like collaborate like on a regular whiteboard, right? So you can draw, cut, paste, you can make sticky notes, all those fun things that we're going to talk about during making your sprints work. So you have all the tools just like you do on a regular whiteboard, but it's virtual. You can share that whiteboard with anyone with a Google account. I think even anyone without a Google account. And you can set backgrounds and do all this fun stuff. So as you ideate and you figure out what you want to do, this Jamboard will come in handy for that. In terms of the data, we have a whole series of raw data pieces that we brought in about COVID-19, the pandemic. Let's see, I think all the way down. This is about 10,000 records or so. And these are actually data samples from all over the world about COVID-19 in multiple languages from multiple countries. And essentially, we're going to have you process the data so you can find out kind of what the top issues are for people with COVID-19 in the given areas that we have. So, for example, if you wanted to look up healthcare, you could actually take your filter here with Google Sheets, and you can put in a condition. Assuming it moves faster, go faster. And you could type in health. So text contains health. And if you want to see all of the fields that are related to just health, the word health, you can actually go through and see all of the blog posts, all of the tweets, all the news, all of the forums, right? So there's lots of different formats here, and find out what are the top issues, right? Or mine, what are the top issues related to health, right? And so you can start to do things like add tagging, right? This is something we do in the real world. So we might say, okay, this is about safety and health guidelines. So you might make a tag called self safety and health guidelines. Right. So it's going to be up to you to decide or model what are the categories of data that are going to be related to the people in the COVID-19 crisis along the different categories. Again, it's going to be health, jobs, education, government services. There's all kinds of things in here. This is just completely from the last 24 to 30 days, 24 hours to 30 days back on everything that people have been saying about the COVID-19 crisis, what solutions are available, news, hashtags, I mean, everything, right? So in the real world, we get data, it's a mess, and we have to create some kind of logic out of it. So you're gonna have to make that model. So you can do that more with Google Sheets, or you can also do it with Google Cloud Data Prep. So some of the examples I put together in Google Cloud Data Prep are by source. So for example, I already had mined the data for whether the source is a blog, a news feed, an image site, Instagram. Where is this data coming from? Where's most of the data coming from in this data set, right? So this is one way you can begin to model the data. You can also begin to model the data by language, even though most of it's English, but it may be translated from different sources. So you may want to model it based on what's happening in a given territory or a given language, right? So right now it's Spanish and French. So it might not be enough data. So you might decide it's not enough data. You might decide it is a great sample. It's going to be up to you and your model. And then you might decide that you want to look at data by country. So you can look at certain records and do pivot tables. So you can either do pivot tables in Cloud Data Prep, or you can do pivot tables in Google Sheets, and see where's all the information coming from, right? So you see there's a lot of posts here from the US, but you can also see there's some where we just don't even, it's just blank. Where's this data coming from? It doesn't actually have a country tag. So there's lots of different options here in terms of countries to focus on where the data comes from. And you can model your profile based on a person, the data you found out about Mexico, or you can model it based on the data you found out about the US, or you can model it based on the data you find in the whole world. And then for topics in Cloud Data Prep, you can actually extract healthcare data out of, healthcare data out of the actual file as well in a run file. So we're gonna send some instructions about how you do that. So just like I went and sorted this filter by health, I can actually extract out the word health from any of the rows and then have a report on which entries are about healthcare, which entries are about a certain country, which entries are about certain things that I'm looking for. So first you have to kind of get in your mind is what do you want to tackle, right? Do you want to tackle jobs? Do you want to tackle healthcare? Do you want to tackle education? And then you want to look at where do you want to tackle that? What countries, right? Do you want to tackle that on certain platforms, right? Or do you want to try to address all the platforms and use your information source? How do you know what people are looking for, what they want, and what they're talking about? what are the main problems, right? So you're looking at what are the problems that need to be addressed based on this data set? How do I find them? What definitions do they have, right? And you want to do that in your model. And there's several ways to do that. And then of course, if you have your own tools, you can look at your own tools and see how to do those. But we recommend that you start with the basics, right? So you start with Google Sheets or Google Cloud Data Prep. You can type in normal formulas just like you do in Excel, and go from there. And then we're going to start with the Jamboard. So in terms of the sprint itself for Monday, today, as you start, we're going to actually start off with a structure that we recommend called How Might We? So just to get into what a sprint structure might be for this first day.
Hey, I'm Jake from GV.
Wait,
And I'm John.
well, too fast. So just to get a structure for what might be for today, what you can do with your group, you can start to talk about a topic called How Might We? So the question is, how might we help this person, right? How might we help this person who's looking for a job? How might we help this person who's looking for healthcare solutions? How might we help somebody who's looking for educational solutions? How might we do this, right? And so that's what Sprint Day Monday, the first day, is actually about. So we're going to start with this Google Ventures video just to give an idea of how it works.
Hey, I'm Jake from GV.
And I'm John.
Also from GV. And we're going to talk about Monday of the sprint week. So congratulations, you're starting on a sprint. That's awesome. By the end of this week, by Friday, you're going to have a realistic prototype and you're going to be testing it with 5 target customers. So one thing to keep in mind throughout the week is that you're going to have a lot of decisions to make. And just keep in mind that you're going to end up with a concrete prototype and you're going to end up with some data at the end of the week. You don't have to make every decision perfectly. You just need to keep moving through the sprint, and getting that prototype and that test is going to go a long way towards giving you the benefit you need to start this project off in a strong way.
Yeah. When you start your sprint on Monday, it's going to be really tempting to start thinking of solutions right away. After all, that's why you're there. That's the whole point of the sprint, is to try to solve this problem. But we think it's really important to slow down a little bit and try to build a foundation first, to have everyone talk about what they know, to sort of share knowledge, and also build a shared understanding of that problem. And that's to make sure that you're not wasting your team's time and effort focusing on the wrong part of the problem. So the way that we do that is to create a map of the problem and to select the specific point on that map that you want to focus on. It can feel a little bit slow to do that because it's basically a full day of talking and writing on the whiteboard, but you'll have to trust us. It's super important. It makes sure that the rest of the week is really fast and really efficient.
So let's talk about what happens, those activities on Monday. First thing, you're going to do something we call start at the end. So that means you're going to fast forward. You're going to look ahead to 6, 12 months, even further. And if this project goes perfectly, if you put on your optimistic hat, what's it going to look like? And you're going to write down a long-term goal that sort of expresses that perfect future. And then you're going to put on your pessimistic hat, or put your optimistic hat on backwards, whatever you prefer. And you're going to list out all the questions, all of the risks, all of the assumptions, all the things that might trip you up and prevent you from getting to that golden future expressed in the long-term goal. Then you're going to make a map. So you're going to make sort of a simple diagram showing how a customer moves through your product or your service. And you're just going to start with a rough draft of that map.
Yeah, all of that is in the morning. So after lunch, you're going to come back and you're going to do Ask the Experts. This is where you talk to people, some of whom are already in the sprint with you, and some of whom may work in other parts of your company, who are experts on some part of the problem. And you're essentially just going to interview them, ask them questions. You should use a timer to make sure that those conversations don't go on too long. But the big goal here is to have them improve your map, to look for things they can add to your map, mistakes they can fix, ways they can enhance your understanding of the problem. While everybody's listening to those interviews, you'll have the team take notes using a technique called How Might We? Now, it's a little dorky and it's going to feel a little bit unnatural to some people, but we think it's really helpful because it makes sure that the notes are all in the same format. And that makes it a lot easier to organize and sort through those notes later. And that's exactly what you're going to do. After the interviews, you'll paste all the notes up on a window or a wall or a whiteboard, and you'll have the group sort them out into different categories, and then vote on the ones that seem the most interesting or the most useful for building your prototype.
And then you're ready to pick a target for your sprint. So this is the decider's job at the end of the day on Monday. Look at all that stuff. Look at the map, look at the how might we's, and choose one specific target customer, one specific spot on the map, and then look at those questions from the morning and choose the ones that you want to try to answer in your sprint. And this sounds really hard, but by the end of the day, Monday, when you've gone through all that information, it's usually pretty easy for the decider to sort of make that call. And then that's it. The information is booted up in everybody's head. The focus of the sprint should be clear to everyone on the team. And you're all ready for Tuesday, when you're going to actually get to start sketching, coming up with solutions. You've set the stage for an excellent sprint.
Okay. So we're going to actually be doing this from tonight all the way till tomorrow night. So that's the goal. And then Tuesday will be Tuesday through Wednesday. Wednesday will be Wednesday through Thursday. Thursday will be Thursday through Friday. And then Friday, you'll be wrapping things up. So that's how we're going to do it. And then for every day of the week, there is a video that you'll be provided just like this one, and as well as an article that has a checklist of what you should be focused on. So there's two things you need to remember. One is the end goal is to build a prototype of a piece of software that is data driven, right? So you're going to take the data, you're going to analyze it, and your data is going to be one of your experts or one of your information sources to actually get to the point of what you should be doing. So one is you want to make sure, unlike in the example, you're not just going to be interviewing people, you're actually going to be analyzing data and visualizing data and putting your rationale based on that data, right? And what you need to build, right? So you can, in the end, build anything. You can build an Alexa voice app, you can build a mobile app, you can build a Google Assistant, you can build a website, you can build a phone line, any of those things. But the point is, it's going to be driven by data. So the data is going to be analyzed, visualized, and then you're going to think through what you want your prototype to be, and it'll be in a presentation or slideshow. Each of the sprints days, again, will have everything you need. So if you have any questions on what you should do, what you should be focused on, or how you apply it to this particular situation, you can hit us up in the Discord and we can connect the dots for you. We'll do some connecting the dots guides for tonight and make sure and have those posted for you as well. But we want to make sure that you know that everything you need is actually here in this article and in the video, as well as the links that we have for the data. So that's where we're going to start for today. Any questions? I know it all sounds mysterious until we go step 1, step 2, but you will have those directions as well. Any questions about the sprint structure? And of course, if you have your own project management structure or organizational structure you like to use when you work in teams, you can use that. You don't have to necessarily use the sprint structure. We recommend it if you've never done this before across a 5-day ideation session and development session.
And the link for the data, Marie?
The link for the data will be posted in the Discord once you're assigned to your groups. So make sure, if you haven't already signed your hackathon participation agreement, make sure you sign that. That's what will allow you to receive the data and all the instructions and everything, because we want to make sure that we have all the agreements in place for us to have a safe and healthy hackathon.
Hi, Mary. I had one question.
Sure.
As you just mentioned that you would be sharing the data on the Discord channel, would you
Yes.
also be sharing the metadata for the same?
The metadata, you mean in terms of the categories?
Yeah, like from the first few attributes which I could see on the screen, they were self-explanatory, but I was just wondering, would there be a explanation for the attributes?
Yes. On the source data, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And there will be helpers. I believe in Discord we have everybody outlined. Darshana, you want to tell them a little bit about what the colors mean? I see you guys have color coded some things.
Yeah. So on Discord, we have some channels made. In the general channel, everybody is there. If you have any technical issues while signing up for Google or with Discord, or how to communicate with your team, you can just create a issue in the tech support channel, and we'll try to help you resolve that. In terms of the mentoring channel, we have mentors throughout every day of the week. So if you have questions, if you're not able to formulate an idea or not able to decide where to move from a certain point, you can always try to schedule a couple of minutes with the mentors. As per the schedules, you could just text them and ask if any mentor is available, and they can help with the ideation or whatever the blockage you are having at that point of time. There is a networking in opportunities. You would see some of our speakers, judges, and mentors there. So if you want to interact on any networking and opportunities, you could do that in those channels. Uh, Most of the data is available on the link which Marie would send. If you have any question for the data per se, or how to access it, I think the best way would be to put it on tech support itself so that we can get that solved as soon as possible.
Yeah, or if you have any challenges setting up Google Cloud or any of that kind of stuff, it should all be very click friendly. You should be able to just click, 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 and be right at the right focus for Google Cloud.
Also, you have our email address for Mirage Analytic Club, info.mirageanalyticsclub@gmail.com. We'll post it in the chat also. So in case if you have questions, you could mail us there as well. So you have multiple channels to reach out to us. The end goal is to have kind of a general summary of what you're trying to achieve by Saturday morning. And on Saturday, there would be presentation of 5 to 10 minutes per group, depending on how many groups are there. And you need to just present what was the idea and what did you find around the idea. Just to reinforce, the idea is to use this data for good, how the COVID-19 data of past 30 days from across the world can be used to do something beneficial for the community. So that's where the idea lies.
Right. And not recovering from the healthcare part, recovering from all the other implications that are happening to people, right? Because a lot of people are focused on the healthcare part, and that's a really important part because people need to survive the COVID crisis. We also have people that have a lot of economic effects and things like that, that are other effects that are happening in this crisis. So we're focused on all the other pieces besides the actual treatment of the disease.
And just a last bit, on Discord, if everybody could put their names as their original names, it's hard to find people with nicknames. So if you could do that, as well as when you raise a technical issue, just leave your email address so that we can reach out to you on your emails.
And then make sure that if you have any questions about what the challenge is about, it is here in the hackathon guide. So you just go through the hackathon guide, go through the hackathon space, make sure you familiarize yourself with all the pieces of what needs to happen. And then we can start connecting the dots.
Sorry, I have a few questions. When will you guys be able to announce the teams?
Right now, we would be doing that right now.
Cool. And then also, like, in terms of this hackathon, are we only limited to using the Google Prep and Google and Sheets to build the prototype?
No, that's just to analyze the data.
Okay.
Yeah, you can conceptualize the prototype We'll recommend some tools for the final, like for the design phase. But there are many tools you can use to emulate cell phones or do voice assistant or other platforms you can do to take what you've analyzed and turn it into an application.
Brian, does that answer your question?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
If no more question, we'll just open the breakout rooms. Good.
All the rooms are open now. You guys can join it. Everyone's gotten the notification for the breakout room. So if you're away from your keyboard, please just quickly join it so we can get a better count of who still has to sign the agreement and who's already signed it. Okay. There are a few people on the call right now who haven't signed it. Yeah, so I think Jiansheng, you have to sign the agreement first in order to be assigned a group. So first sign it and then it'll assign you to a group. Okay, so people are saying there's issues with the agreement itself.
Emily is saying she has signed the agreement.
Yeah, and then even he's saying he signed the name Ray. So should I just assign them in a group?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm assigning them the ones where people have left at the moment. So Darshana, can you send out a broadcast message? Oh, wait, I can broadcast a message too. Just that if your group may have certain members, group may have some members missing. Check Discord for all of them.
Mary, the groups look smaller than what we anticipated, and we have about 10 rooms right now who are out there.
And mostly we have like 3 people in each group, except for room 5, we have 1 less person right now. So and then room 10 also. Okay, Harshal joined there. So yeah, we just need 1 person in room 5 to make a 3-person team there. Okay, Brian joined the gallery assigned to.
Hey Brian, were you not able to join a group?
No, my internet just kicked me out, but I do have a question. So, wait, so that breakout room is the team, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, and then I thought. Sorry.
On Discord.
Okay, and then I thought the team is like between the team of 5 and 6, right? Right now, currently my breakout room is a team of 3.
Yeah, there are lesser people than who signed up, so the team size have been reduced.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
If you can see, if you can see anyone in the main room who's supposed to be in the things, everyone's like this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll bring everybody back. Can you just send a broadcast that will bring everybody back in 5 minutes, and they can continue their discussion further on Discord.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't see Emily's agreement.
Maybe you should use another name to sign the agreement.
Yeah.
Maybe there is another name because we have a lot of students who have aliases.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to double check.
And we'll also double check with Emily. What name has she signed with?
Let's see, do you remember if Emily Han is Yue Han in our class?
Oh, yeah.
Wei Han. Yeah.
Yeah, then she's on here. Is yeah, there she is. Okay.
Very quick question. So in terms of the prototype, it can also be just the descriptive statistic for the data, or they need to say that they want to build something to help a persona.
Yeah, they should build something. At least have a concept of either a website or an app or something.
Okay. It's a newer concept, so maybe before everybody winds up for the day, maybe we can give them a idea that how to go about it. Maybe one sample or just speaking about it might help.
Yeah, that's actually on the sprint guide.
Okay.
So I think we'll be pushing too much information. Let's just wait till we get to that day.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she's under UA. Is this usually it's better if people just sort of find their own like way of thinking about it, because that's how you're going to get the best out of the hackathon instead of like giving them things to copy.
Sure.
Yeah. That's how they get a job anyway. They'll get a job by thinking on their own.
So if, like, tomorrow, if someone didn't show up on today's call, but sign up and then sign the agreement, we can still assign them into their groups, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure they're following along. So we can have our team, sort of track them down and make sure they're following along and that sort of stuff.
Joy, for some people, the Zoom distribution is different from the Discord for some reason. So I've resent you all the Zoom assignments again. So can you double check on those? Because I think especially for team 10, Swati and Meera and Harshal are all in separate, like different Discord channels, and it's different. So just double check on that.
Okay.
Do you think 3 people is too less, Marie?
No, 3 is fine. If people drop out or something, then you can combine groups. We can start to look at that. That happens sometimes with hackathons, that people can get combined together.
Okay, sure.
Wait, team 2?
And Crystal and Timmy Toper, are you guys okay with following everything that's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Should go. Yeah.
Just checking in.
Yeah.
So what we have done in terms of the troubleshooting, we are creating a Google Sheet, which we will try to solve if any issues come through Discord on our own. If it doesn't, we pass that on to your team, Marie.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
And can you send another announcement to have people change their name into their real name? Because there are names I cannot recognize.
That might happen after the call. They might be in their own team discussions. So once they're back in the main room, we can ask them.
Okay.
You have a timer set, Ankit? How many minutes? I think another minute we can bring them back.
Yeah, we got about 12 minutes left.
A 60-second broadcast as well, Ankit.
That will be once I close the room, so I'll get that.
Okay. So probably we can close the room. Yeah.
Should I close it right now? Okay.
Okay, we all back?
Yeah, almost back. I think one last group is coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Everybody's back.
Okay, so you guys have all the links to explore the tools and the project management structure. We have the codes for the color codes for Discord on how to contact everyone. We're gonna give you guys some time to get yourself set up. And once you're set up with Google Cloud Data Prep and Jamboard or whatever tools you have, we need to give us a all ready to go, so then we can provide you with the data. So let us know when all you and all your team members are set up, and we'll make sure that you have access to the data. We'll just double check and make sure everything's good to go, and then you'll be able to work with your team over the course of tonight and Tuesday for day one. Most of our team will be online all day tomorrow. I think most of our mentors and speakers and everyone will be on and off the line. So be sure to post if you have any questions or thoughts or anything you want to know more about. We can help you, guide you in the right direction. Anything else you want to share, Darshana, for closing?
Just the last bit, what Murray just said, I want to reiterate that. Once you make your Google Cloud accounts, then Murray can send you the links for the data, or you can access the data after that. Am I correct, Murray?
Yes.
Yeah. So once your team is ready for the data, just they need to provide you with a link, or what would be the way to communicate?
Just ready to go.
Okay.
And yeah.
So
I think I need to be added to the channels, to the team channels, so we know.
Okay. Okay. So Murray would be added in your channels on Discord. Once you say that you're ready with your Google Cloud, then she can initiate how to give the data. That's about it from our end. If anybody has any question, we are here on the call for a little bit longer, or else we'll see you all on Friday evening.
If there are any issues with especially the assignments of the teams, please just stay like for 2 minutes and just like let us know and we can fix it right now.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Excited to see what you guys are going to come up with.
Good luck, everyone. Bye.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, Emily.
Hi. Yeah. So, oh yeah, I see you reply me in the Discord. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah. Yeah. Now the problem is fixed. Yeah. Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Joy, sorry. Go ahead, Darshana.
Emily, do you have an alias name that you have used to sign the document?
Yeah, I signed the agreement as Yu Wei Han, but I display like I choose like preferred name. So yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, but now the problem is fixed. Thank you so much. Okay. Have a good night.
Hi guys. Thank you guys for all of the speakers and everything. I tried to join Discord and it's telling me that I have an invalid invitation. I emailed the Mac email with the picture of the error that I get.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that what that's
Mariana, try the one I just sent on the chat like right now.
Okay. Yeah, it says invite invalid. It says it may be expired or I might not have permission to join.
The current one too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me try another one. Try this one.
Same thing. Let me
Interesting.
try
Try it on
opening
your
maybe in
phone because
Safari.
I know that some people had the same issue. Try it on your phone.
Okay.